Hi there, I'm Molly.
And I'm Jamie. We're the owners of Hired Hand Software.
And this is Season 6 of our From the Pasture podcast. For more than 15 years, we've been helping breeders promote their pedigree livestock with our easy-to-use, animal management-driven website software.
Each week, we bring you stories from the pasture, breeding philosophies, ranch traditions, cattle knowledge, and conversation with folks using Hired Hand to power their livestock marketing.
So settle in for today's episode of From the Pasture with Hired Hand.
Welcome back to another episode of From the Pasture. I'm your host, Jamie. Today we have a special guest and a special milestone. Joining us is Andrea Wilson with the Longhorn Project, based at the NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston. They're gearing up to celebrate 30 years of educating youth through Texas Longhorns, STEM, agriculture, and space exploration. In this conversation, we'll hear how a 20-acre pasture on a Space Center campus became a classroom, what happens when students get immersed in agriculture and STEM educational programs, how FFA students are stepping into ranch management roles, and what's ahead as they mark 3 decades of making a difference. Andrea, welcome to the show. We're so glad you're here. Well, to get started, tell us about yourself, your role as chairman of the board and the executive director, and how you became involved with the Longhorn Project.
Okay, thank you. So in 2006, which is almost 20 years ago, I helped Cindy Schnugger, who many people may know, with Anchor T Ranch. They've been in the Longhorn business for a long time. She was the head of the ag department at Clear Creek Independent School District, and my son was in high school. And I offered to help fundraise for the school livestock show and auction. And shortly after that, I got a call from her and another board member to ask me if I wanted to be on the Longhorn Project board. And I said no. So here I am 30 years later. So basically, she said, well, just come out and see, take a look and see what you think about it. And so I went out there and I was dressed in my work clothes. And she says, well, get in the back of this Polaris and we're going to go feed the Longhorns. I was like, okay. And I had this big bale of hay sitting next to me. And she's driving out in the pasture and all these Longhorns start running at me. And I was like, what do I do? She goes, just throw them some hay. And when I threw the hay, I looked up and I saw the rocket and the Longhorns in one view. And I went like, I don't know what this is, but I got goosebumps. And so I joined the board, the development board, when it was run by CCISD. And then years later, and we're going to talk about this later, but years later, CCISD, they ran it for 20 years. And then we created a 501(c)(3). And when we did that, I became the chairman of the board and the executive director. And that's kind of how that happened. So, actually, after I joined the board under CCISD, she told me, oh, you need to get your son to try out. I said, try out. And so he tried out, of course, and he made the team. So for two years, we traveled, with all the show team to many, many shows. And my husband was retired at the time, and he became Cindy's ranch hand. And then later, when I became the chairman of the board, he became the project manager. So we'll talk more about that in the interview.
So maybe a little bit of a reluctant start, but you clearly enjoy it tremendously since you've been around for 20 some years now.
Once I understood the background of it and how it was created and the purpose of it, it became a calling, and it's more than just a passion. It's just something I was called to do and to champion for the Longhorn Project.
Well, can you describe in your own words the mission of the Longhorn Project?
So originally it was set up as, it's called the Longhorn Project affectionately, but the real name of it is a Center for Agriculture, Science, and Engineering. And the purpose of it is to provide education, agriculture education, STEM education to youth. And originally it was just for CCISD, but then in 2015, when it was transitioned to the nonprofit, we were able to open it to all school districts and to expand the programming and expand funding opportunities. And so the mission is to educate youth and show them firsthand, where their fruits and vegetables come from and all about agriculture and using the Texas Longhorns, for genetic lessons and the history of Texas and things like that.
And the origins date back to 1996 when NASA, the CCISD, the TOBAA, and the HL SR all came together. Can you walk us through those early days? Who
Yes.
or what sparked the idea, what the first field trips looked like, and what some of the early challenges were?
Yes, it's a great story. So the center director at the time was George W.S. Abbey. And he had a picture of cattle grazing on the land that was once owned by West Ranch, James Marion West, Sr. And he said, there was another man that he worked with. It was actually with a contractor with, I believe, Lockheed, who was a member of the TLBAA. He says, I think we need to put Longhorns out here to honor our Texas heritage and to expand and to provide an area for our school district to have an agriculture program and a STEM program. And so Don Lynn was the member that was with the TLBAA. And he said, I can help you get some trophy steers. And so he got with the TLBAA and they donated the first trophy steers. And so shortly after that, George Abbey called our school district, Clear Creek Independent School District, and talked to the superintendent, Dr. John Wilson. He said, well, what do you know about Longhorns? He said, I have a whole ag department. And so the FFA students were the first students that actually took care of the Longhorns. And shortly after that, Dr. Sandra Mossman, who was the assistant superintendent at the time, then became the superintendent, she says, we need to make this educational field trip program. And she had a lady named Sandy Peck, who actually had worked for George Abbey previously, write the first curriculum. And so the curriculum is based on the Longhorns. I use them for the genetic lessons and the history of Texas because it's written for at that time, it was written for the 3rd and 7th grade TEKS, the Texas Essential Knowledge Skills. And now it's written for the 4th grade TEKS. But they wrote the curriculum, and then all the 3rd and 7th graders started coming for CCISD, started coming to the field trip. And it's a 4-part field trip program. And it starts with, when the students come out, that they divide into groups of 25. We may get 100 at a time, and they'll divide into groups of 25. And one that starts with the Longhorns, and they get their lessons on the Longhorns, and then they get to go down into the barn and feed them cubes and pet them and look at all the different variations and the colors and the horns of the Longhorns. And another group will go over to our 7-acre garden, and they learn all about gardening, aquaculture, soil management, and they get to learn about native plants and our pollination, and they get to see firsthand how their fruits and vegetables are grown, which is, sometimes a real eye-opener for these 3rd and 4th graders. And then they have we have the lab where they learn about the circle of life, and they collect specimens from the garden, and they get to look at the specimens under the microscope. And then we take them over to the George W.S. Abbey Rocket Park, and they learn all about space exploration. We do a lesson on the Apollo and the Mercury era, and they get to see their Saturn V rocket. And so they get their lesson on space exploration. So that curriculum was written, and we continue to expand it, as things progress. But that's how the field trip program got started.
That's quite a bit that you offer these kids, which is really great.
Mm-hmm.
So as you look toward the 30-year anniversary, what have been some of the most defining moments or turning points in the program's history?
Mm-hmm. Well, from the early days, and we didn't really tie into how the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo got involved, but the 4 partners were NASA Johnson Space Center, the Clear Creek Independent School District, the TLBAA, by helping get us our first set of Longhorns, and the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. They helped build some of our first structures out there through some grant money, and like our barn. And eventually they we have a beautiful outdoor pavilion, brick pavilion, and they built that in 2000. And that's where we have a lot of our events and where the students come they gather for their field trip. But that's how the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo got involved. And we continue to, apply for grants through the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. And of course, we go to the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo show every year, for our Longhorn show. That's how the 4 partners came together. And so what are we looking forward to? So the defining moments. So, well, I think the defining moments was, first, when it kicked off in 1996, it was unbelievable that we would have something like this at NASA. And then years later, CCISD ran it for 20 years. I guess the defining moment is when we created the 5013C to expand this program to all school districts, all school types, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, adult, groups, things like that. And so when we created the 501c and CCIC transferred the program to the nonprofit was a big step. And that allowed us again to expand the program to all schools. So now we have several different schools that come out there, and we have different organizations, youth organizations that come, adult organizations. And then we're able to start our summer youth camp. And then we'll, that I think most people know us because of the show team. And we've been showing Longhorns on the show circuit for almost 30 years. And, that continues to evolve.
So the facility is at roughly 20 acres, and 18 of that is pasture for the barns, the garden plots, the native prairie gardens, the aquaculture ponds, the science lab. I mean, it sounds like you all have pretty much everything there. How do you think that physical environment adds to the learning experience for students versus them, I guess, just reading about it, in a textbook?
Well, it's hands-on. It's experiential. And so, you can watch. We even have a 5-minute video on the program that's on our website. But until you get out there and you see it and you smell it and you can touch it, I said it's a huge difference. You can only learn so much through a textbook. And where for years it was just the 3rd and 7th graders that came. But when we took over in 2015, shortly after, we switched it to just the 4th graders because the TEKS, evolve over time. The Texas Essential Knowledge Skills evolve over time. And our program had evolved, and they said it was more appropriate for the 4th grader. Although we for all of the schools, other than CCISD, we do 3rd through 12th grade. So when we moved to 4th grade, the teacher said this is the best field trip that they've ever been on. And so because it's so experiential and you're getting lessons on agriculture and space exploration, how those tie together. And so it's just something that you're not going to see anywhere in the world. First of all, you're never going to see a Longhorn with a space shuttle in a rocket in one panoramic view. I mean, so it's just unlike anything else in the world.
How do you select and manage the herd of the Texas Longhorns for the program, and how are they integrated into all the educational activities? Some of the strongest advocates for the Texas Longhorn breed aren't breeders yet. They're young people who already love these cattle.
For 30 years, the Longhorn Project has given students a chance to raise, care for, and show Texas Longhorns, while also learning agriculture, business, leadership, and responsibility.
It's a program that builds confidence, character, and the next generation of cattlemen and cattlewomen.
As they celebrate 30 years in 2026, learn how you can support their mission or get involved at thelonghornproject.com.
Well, so I love this story. So over the years it's evolved. But when Henry and I took over the program in 2015, we were looking for some new breeders, to be in our program. And so I'd seen in, I guess, the TLB magazine, they were having an STA, South Texas Longhorn Association meeting in Pasture. And so I remember calling and asking, hey, can we come? And they're like, well, of course. And I said, so, when they said, bring a covered dish. And I said, well, we're traveling kind of far. Can I just send some money? And she says, well, of course. So we went, and I believe at that time, Christy and John Randolph were very involved, and Suzanne Perry and Sandy Nordhausen. And so we took the show team with us, and we went to our first STL meeting in Bastrop, and I was asked to get up and talk about it. And so I did. And afterward, John Randolph and the Tudicks and so many people came up to Henry and said, how do I get in the program? And so that was really like, oh, wow. So from that one meeting, we met so many breeders. And afterward, we actually went to John and Christy's ranch, and he says, here's what I have. And he started showing us the Longhorns. And we're like, oh, so the show team was there. So we got to help select which Longhorns we wanted in our program. And that's kind of how it helped. And then shortly after, we met some more breeders at different shows, the Krauses, Brett and Teresa Krause and the Haglers. And we would go to their ranches, and they'd pin up the animals and say, this is what I have. And we would basically just do some shopping and look around, and we would just try to get the best of the best. And that's how we built our show herd. And and like Jeremy Johnson with Rancho Dos Niños, and just so many more. The Torkelsons, with Bull Creek Ranch, we would go to their ranches and they would just show us what they had, and we would build our herd from visiting the ranches. And then one of my good stories is a friend of mine that lived in Clear Lake, Angela and Daryl Bivens, on the Pet Palace. They wanted to donate some money to our program. And I said, with y'all being in the Pet Palace business, I said, y'all need to buy a Longhorn. And so she's like, well, how do I start? And so I introduced her to Christy and John Randolph, and we studied these Longhorns for many weeks before she decided to pick Ginger. Ginger ended up being like a 15-time grand champion female on the show circuit, and she's just the most gorgeous Longhorn. And since then, they have sold their Pet Palace, and they live in Hico now with their own Longhorn ranch. So that's kind of a full moment story, But that's kind of how we did it. We would just meet breeders and go to their ranches and see what they had and try to pick the best of the best.
So let's talk about the curriculum now with STEM and agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
So you've educated over 100,000 students through hands-on lessons in history and genetics of the Texas Longhorns, agriculture related to the native Texas plants, fruits, vegetables, soil education, natural habitats, the aquaculture, and all the other things. I'm sure I've missed something, but you can fill us in. Tell us about one or two memorable student experiences that showcase how the program changes perspectives on agriculture and or STEM.
Well, I can tell you from my son's own experience. My son was in the program for 2 years, and he, I think he wanted to try out. Well, he tried out for the golf tournament, and he missed it by 2 points. And we're like, okay, well, what else can he get into? Well, he met some of the ag students in high school. And so he got into FFA. And then shortly after I was on the board, he tried out for the Longhorn Project, got on it. And so that was the most natural fit for him ever. So it's like when one door shuts, another one opens. And so after he graduated from high school, he went to Texas A&M, and he got his degree in ag leadership and development, and with an emphasis in construction science. And so now he works for a very large general contractor, Joris, that builds schools and HEBs and things like that. And so he was able to apply, what he learned through his ag leadership and development program with the emphasis in construction science to have, the career that he has now as a superintendent and project manager for Joris. So this was all, through the inspiration and through him showing. We met so many wonderful leaders in the business that, going to all these ranches and learning, the different backgrounds and the careers that these ranchers had before they became Longhorn ranchers was just, so amazing, and so, that prepared him for the world in for a professional career.
So one little decision on not making the golf team completely changed
his course of life. Yes, it did. It did.
That's pretty cool.
And then we had 2 other students that were on the show team, and they this was early on, and both of them, one of them had no background in agriculture, the other one had already raised different chickens and goats and things like that for 4-H and an FFA, and so they were on the show team. And one of them, the boy, ended up going to Tarleton for a degree in agriculture education. He thought he wanted to be a teacher. And the other one went to, I think she ended at West Texas A&M, but they were on, I know she was on the livestock judging team. And, both of them graduated. And lo and behold, both of them worked for the USDA in Sioux City, Iowa. And they work for the USDA grading meat, grading the beef, so that was kind of a full circle moment for them too. And actually the boy Chase, he just came down last week to visit and say hi to Henry and I. And it was just like a, kind of a chill that this was part of his career.
And almost like a warm, proud parent experience too, with him coming back to you.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so many of our listeners are Longhorn breeders with ranches. They know the cattle side of things, but perhaps they know maybe a little bit less about how that links to STEM, space, and youth. How do you connect the dots in your curriculum?
Mm-hmm. So, the main thing is like we have the show team, we have our field trip program, we have our summer youth camp. And through all those different uh, programs, they learn about agriculture and then they learn about STEM. And so STEM is like, through almost everything, science, technology, engineering, and math. And so, how we apply it is, especially when they learn about, space exploration, they have their lesson on the rockets. They learn about inertia and thrust and how things, about the moon landing and about the reentry. They learn all about the science behind that. And one of the things that they learn about is all the byproducts that we use every day from space exploration, such as memory foam that was created to cushion the astronaut seats, back in 1996 for a landing. The scratch resistant film that you have on like the goggles for the helmet is like the UVA protection is now what we use in eyeglasses. And the scratch resistant film that goes on the helmets is used in eyeglasses. And then like the wireless communication that we now use for Bluetooth was all created for NASA. So they learn all the things that we use every day in our life and how that came through the space exploration side. But and then of course they learn all about the different machinery that's used in agriculture and how that applies. But everything that we use in life is going to be built on STEM principles, and so we just tie that all together.
Running a breeding program takes work. Running your digital world shouldn't.
From websites and animal management to SEO, email blasts, text messages, and even auction support, Hired Hand Software handles the tech so you don't have to.
You get one trusted team built for livestock breeders with all your digital chores under one roof.
Visit hiredhandsoftware.com. Your online life just got a whole lot easier.
So what role do the FFA or other students play in the program? How do they help? How does it help them build real world ranch management or animal husbandry skills?
Mm-hmm. So we have our show team, and then we have, volunteers. And so for the show team, they help take care of the animals. They come out, and even our volunteer students, they help weigh and measure the animals and do the worming and the shots and everything. Matter of fact, this Sunday we have a work day with a combination of our show team and our volunteers. And so they learn everything from taking care of the animals on that level to halter breaking them, walking them, grooming them, but they also take care of the ranch. We do lots of fence repairs. We fix water systems, we fix electrical. So they learn a little bit about everything on the ranch. So, and also am a mentor for independent study mentor program through Clear Creek Independent School District. And so we have students that come out and they might want to go into veterinarian, they might want to go into ranch management. And so they learn the whole gamut, from cleaning the pens to fixing the fences, so almost every aspect of what you have to do as a rancher, they get to experience and figure out, if this is something that they want to do and continue. And then we have another group of volunteers that come out and they just work in the garden, so they help, with the weeding, the planting. Last year we were able to renovate our garden, we did a complete renovation of it. And we dedicated it to Dr. Mossman, who was our champion and trailblazer for our field trip program. And that was a real warm, fuzzy moment to be able to do that because she was the inspiration behind our field trip program. And so we had probably 50 volunteers one day that just basically transformed the garden in one weekend. And so that was a lot of fun. So they get all kinds of experience.
Sounds like it. Well, let's talk about some of the traditions and the culture. So what traditions or signature events have grown around the Longhorn Project over the last 30 some years?
Mm-hmm. So, besides the field trips and the summer youth camps, we have different organizations like the Texas X's. They come, this will be their second or third year, they come and they volunteer. And so we look forward to those groups that like to come every year to help, volunteer. But then annually we have we have a couple of fundraisers. And usually the first week of December, we have our volunteer appreciation luncheon. This year, we changed it up a little bit because it's our 30th anniversary. And we had a 2-day event, first starting at the Butler Longhorn Museum in Kemah, which we enjoyed partnering with. And then we had a very nice party at that event. And then we had a full day event at the Longhorn Project with like 125 people. But then we usually have an annual bingo fundraiser. So there's a few things that we have annually that kind of are our signature events that people look forward to. And, we plan for those almost all year long. We're already planning for our April event. So we'll talk about that too.
So what tools or technology have you introduced in the past few years or plan to introduce in the future to enhance the educational experience with the cattle, the land, or the STEM labs?
So of course, like for the summer youth camp kids, we have, iPads, and we do like plant identification, and we look at, disease and, sort of what we need to do to, put the plant, plant the plants in the right areas, at shade or not shade, water or not water. So we use the technology, the iPads for that and the app for that. And then there's just, of course, we have a website, and we use all of the social media platforms to promote our program and to engage the audience. And then, we would like to probably use more technology, but, on a small ranch and we're out there every day, you sometimes don't need to. But of course, we would love to have sensors, on our water troughs to make sure we know when they do go out. We had a water trough valve that had been there for way before I got there, maybe. And it's been there it was like that out there about 15 years. And one day I see this flood, and I think it's a broken pipe at NASA. No, the Longhorns had knocked off the water valve, the float valve. And so that would have been nice to know sooner than later if we had had a sensor on it. So we would, we want to use more technology, but being there every day, sometimes we just kind of don't, and we don't have, Wi-Fi and out there, but that's something how we use the technology.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the marketing and the celebration of 30 years. So as you celebrate the 30-year milestone, how are you marking that with the community, whether that's through like the sponsors, the alumni, or the students?
Thanks for asking. So like I said, we just had our 30-year kickoff party, which was the Longhorn Silver Buckle Longhorn Weekend. And that was a kickoff party, and that we did that through marketing. I'm involved with the 2 chambers here, the Clear Lake Chamber, the League City Chamber, BayHAP, which is our Bay Area Houston Economic Partnership. Very involved in those organizations, and that's a great way to meet new people who are interested in supporting youth education in any aspect. And so we did a lot of marketing through that. And now those sponsors, we will reach out to them to help sponsor our Silver Buckle Ball, which is on April the 18th, 2026. It's going to be held at the Hilton here in Nassau Bay. And so we'll continue to market through those avenues. It'll be on our Facebook, and I will be reaching out to lots of different, our past breeders and past sponsors, and just meeting new people and continue to market that. And if anybody out there is listening, we are looking for sponsors to help grow this program and to help it continue to sustain it. And so we would love to talk to anybody that's interested in coming or sponsoring. And we also have individual event tickets too. So you can buy an event ticket, or you can just we have a buckle campaign. And so we're also selling these beautiful one-of-a-kind buckles that I have been designing for years. But this is actually a picture of our Longhorn JSC, CVL JSC George Abbey. And there's a rocket and a shuttle in our logo over here. And so this is part of our campaign. And with all the sponsorships, you get a buckle. And depending on what level of sponsorship you have, the more buckles you get. So buckles, we have a VIP sponsor party and things like that. But this is part of our campaign. And it's been posted on our Facebook, the Longhorn Project at Johnson Space Center. It's also on our website, thelonghornproject.com. So, and we have information about our sponsorship, our Silver Buckle Ball on the website as well. And after the first of the year, we'll be kicking off that on social media as well.
So for those people that do want to get involved, the best place for them to go would be to the website, because you'll have everything linked there for tickets and donations and all that.
Right. they can just click on the order form and they can, order a sponsorship, individual tickets, purchase a buckle. But of course, my phone number is on the website, so they can contact me. And also too, there's a contact form on the website so they can contact me. And the website is hosted by a hired hand. And they can go through that. And, I don't mind, my email address is the longhornproject@yahoo.com. That's easy to remember. Or they can, call me through the phone number that's on the website. But we would love to talk to more breeders who haven't, heard about us. One thing with the show circuit, I look back over the years and we have probably connected with over 100, breeders that we represented their animals on the show circuit, maybe up to 400 animals. And, this has been for the past, 20 years. And we travel thousands and thousands of miles, with kids and these Longhorns promoting all these ranches. And so, and we've met so many tremendous people on the show circuit, whether it be showing or for charity shows, or the Millennium show. We just meet the best people, on the show circuit. And hopefully we can reconnect through this podcast to say, hey, we would love to get more people involved. And it's not even, if it's not even financially, it's maybe through donations. We're always looking for great farm equipment. We have a tractor that's from 1996 and it actually still runs. But, we always are looking for, some hands, some special equipment for special projects and things like that. So we just have lots of needs. We're running a ranch and it's, anybody out there that knows it costs a lot of money. And so for us to fundraise all of that and to help, pay for the help that we have, it's quite an endeavor, so we would welcome all the help that we can get.
When you're running a ranch or taking care of animals, you need a feed store you can trust, one that knows the products, the lifestyle, and the community.
Struddy's Feed and Pet Supply is a family-owned business proudly supporting the Spring Branch and Boerne areas. Their knowledgeable staff is always ready to help you find exactly what you need.
From livestock, horse, and show feeds to pet supplies, wild bird feed, deer feeders, blinds, and lawn and garden essentials, Struddy's has you covered.
With 2 convenient locations and top-quality brands, they're your one-stop shop for everything from cattle and horses to dogs, chickens, and wildlife.
Visit Struddys.com to explore their products or stop by their Boerne or Spring Branch stores.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier the Meet the Breeders page, which is on your website, where there you have some of those people who have donated or loaned animals to the program there. So can you talk about how the donated or animals that they've loaned to the program, how they have shaped the herd, the genetics that they represent, and the student experience?
Right. So there's a couple of breeders on our website right now that continue to sponsor one way or another. Like I said, we've had tons of them. Jim Iman, who owns our Grand Champion Trophy steer Hercules, he called me about 5 years ago and said he had a little steer that he wanted to put in the program. And I was thinking, oh, we have 2 minutes. I said, but we'll see. So he brought the Longhorn to a show and we fell in love with it. And he, as a 6-month-old, was a champion. He's been a champion numerous times over. He's a TLBAA champion 2 times in 22 and 24. And it's Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo 24. And he just won the ITLA trophy steer in October at the championship show. So the breeders, like I mentioned, the relationship is they loan them to the project, and they basically pay for all their care, the show entry fees, the vet fees, things like that. And so on the average, it costs about $2,700 to $3,000 a year, and half of that's probably show fees, and the other half is probably the care for the Longhorns. And we will have breeders like the Randolphs and the Thurmans put in 5 animals. Some will put in 1, so 2, 3, and so that's kind of how it works. And we just bill them monthly. and they pay their invoice, and it's basically a pass-through on our feed and our vet bill and things like that. And then we also sell trailer sponsorships, and we have people that sponsor the back of the trailer, the sides of the trailer, the logos on the trailer, and that helps fund our travel. Because everybody knows all this costs quite a bit of money for the hotel stays and the diesel and all that. So, and then we also, partner with McCree Ford, Mitchell Dale. He was one of our big sponsors when my son was in the program. And then we leased the trucks from him one of our trucks from him for years, because we were taking two 30-foot trailers with about 25 animals to all these shows around Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and so on. And, and staying overnight in hotels. And so that costs quite a bit. So through the trailer sponsorship, we were able to do that travel.
So the animals, when people loan them to the Longhorn Project, they live right there at your facility.
Yes. But we have two like herds. We have our trophy steer. Well, we should call it trophy steer herd, but it's actually got some mama cows out there. They're there basically for life. And then we have a bull that's used as our sire that actually we bought from the Randolphs. They had Chocolate Chip, who was a grand champion female, and Jeremy had his bull that was a drag iron grandson, Iron Noggin, and Chocolate Chip had a little bull calf. I love the story. And so it was the most beautiful bull you ever want to see. And so we asked John, so my son wants to buy this little bull. He says, okay. So it was like super cheap. Well, this little bull won grand champion as a 6-month-old and continued to win on the show circuit. And at the futurity at the TLBAA, he came in reserve grand champion and beat John's bull. And my husband looked over to John and said, "Hey, you want to buy a bull?" And it was kind of funny. But so his name was Iron Kettle. And so Iron Kettle is our sire. And then for the ones that, because he's had so many out there, we take others to get AI'd, But yeah, so that's how we have our trophy steer herd with our mama cows out there and our bull on one side. And then we have what we call our show team animals. And so they come every day to feed. And that's when we alter break them and walk them and things like that. And the show herd, we tend to those as well, but we kind of have two different sort of programs for them.
So when somebody agrees to do this, is it a commitment of like 1 year, 2 years? What does that look like?
Well, so it started out as a show season, but then we quickly learned that, oh no, this was a grand champion female. We need to keep her. So I don't know if y'all know who Miss Dolly, not Parton is, but that was one of the Randolphs. We got her as a 5.5-month-old, and she stayed with us until she was almost 5 years old. And she had several calves at our program because she was winning. And the same thing with Ginger, that the Bibbins owned. Is that if they're winning on the show circuit and doing well, then we'll just keep them year round. And then if for some reason they didn't quite work out, we'll do a trade out and try another one. But that's kind of how we do it. We'll have several of them for many years until they until we can no longer show them. Or like with Dolly, it was just time for her to go home, and we showed her through mature female. So they can stay as long as they want, as long as they're doing well. So, we want it to be a win-win for the breeders and for the students, so, and then like with all these shows that these show team go to, because they're going to different affiliate shows and to the majors like TLA, TLBA and affiliate shows, they earn lots of ribbons and buckles and awards and things like that. And then they can apply for scholarships through all of these different affiliates. And that's sort of another thing that we really push is that, you need to apply for all these scholarships, and they do, and they usually win them. But another big thing that we have them do is they have, through the TLBAA, they have what they call Hall of Fame points. And one way you can earn points is not just by showing and being in showmanship, but you can also do speeches. And so our students have to do the 30 speeches a year to earn more points. And so we have them on a schedule so that they do speeches. It can be to a group of 2 or 3 people or a larger group, but this helps them get the word out about the Longhorn breed and about why we are at NASA and what this means to the Longhorn industry. And so, we have some kind of canned speeches for them, but we say keep them on schedule so they are learning to speak in front of people, and also to promote the history and the preservation and legacy of the Longhorns.
Definitely sounds like they leave the program with skills that are going to take them far into adulthood, not just something that benefits them, now at their time when they're in
Right.
grade school or,
Right.
when they're doing
Right.
that. So that's really neat that you all do that. How do you choose the animals from the different ranches? Is it something where you go out and choose an animal that you want, or is it more the ranch says, here's the animal I'd like you to have?
So, so most of them, we go to their ranches and they have them pinned for us. And then, we'll kind of, we'll ride their ranches and we'll look at all of them, and they'll have some pinned for us and say, this is what we think. And we will usually bring the show team kids with us, and we will just kind of evaluate them, and then we'll pick them. And so, uh, oh, what's his name? Mullinex, Ronnie Mullinex. Okay, so his son-in-law, Dr. Philip Peterson, and his wife have a vet clinic right down from us, like a mile from us. So Dr. Peterson is our vet for our Longhorns. Unless we need to do X-rays or AI, we take them someplace else over into Gulf Coast Large Animal Clinic. And so when we drive up to Ronnie Moggs' place, he has that one animal pinned, that one animal. And we're like, can I look around? He's like, yeah. So we'll ride his ranch, and guess what? We always pick that one he pinned. So, but the other ones, we'll just look around, and we'll kind of evaluate what we think is going to be for the show circuit. And then what we like to do is we like to have each one of the kids have a junior female, a senior female, a steer, and a bull. So they may be showing 4 animals. So we try to get enough to have them throughout the show. They get an experience with, the different sexes, and they learn about the different, how they grow, their characteristics. And so we try to get them one from each division.
So many breeders have told us how they really like being involved with the Longhorn Project because their cattle get to help, educate the youth. From your side of things, how does that impact how does the impact of their support have on the day-to-day operations or the curriculum that you give these youth?
Well, I mean, for the field trip program, it just means we have more animals out there for them to see. And we always talk about, color, conformation, and horn, and we look at the differences in the animals, so that's a great visual, aspect. But, it's like, it's such a partnership. I mean, it's kind of like, we want to promote, the Longhorns. We want the youth to get the experience, and they want the same thing. And so it also helps promote their ranches and what they want to do for youth. And a lot of these breeders, they would love to be doing this on their own, but because, they don't maybe have kids or grandkids that want to show, now they got some pseudo kids that want to show. So pseudo grandkids that want to show. And it's just a great relationship. I mean, it's like they are in this business because they want their Longhorn business to perpetuate. They want other people to join. And this is the way you do it. You start at the ground level and you just work on up. And, it's just telling Christy and John, I said, next time I'll have a work day, I got a bunch of kids that want to come help. They want to contribute back too. It's not all about, just give. They want to be involved in their ranches as well. And we've hosted, through the STLA, because I was on that board as well for a couple of years. And we've hosted lots of annual meetings at different ranches, the Randolphs, the Haglers, the Krauses, to showcase their ranches. And I believe we did one at Bull Creek at one time early on. But this helps showcase their animal and get more people excited about the breed, and help perpetuate, people wanting to get involved.
So over the last 30 years, is there, one or two standout moments that really demonstrated the heart of the Longhorn community that you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, it's, this is, when we go to shows and we're bringing 25 animals and maybe 4 or 5 kids, and if we have 6 or 7, 8 in a drive, we're looking around like, can you show for us? Can you show for us? And so we've met so many wonderful families and kids who want to help us. I mean, and that's what I like about this is that, a lot of showing, in different animals, it's so competitive, but in the Longhorn business, it's such a friendly environment and friendly people that they don't mind stepping in to help you show, a calf at sight or a calf in the, in the drive, even though we may have beat them. They're just willing to step up and help us. And the parents are wonderful. I mean, it's just the greatest, experience that we've had. And I think that's one thing that, is really, I think, just kind of warms our heart is knowing that we have this huge network of friends out there that want to see us succeed and we want to see them succeed, So, we have lots of fun on the show circuit with, and it's like this time they may win, next time we may win, but it's all in good fun. And the whole show, I'm texting the breeders who won, and it's just a fun. It's just a fun thing.
So out of all of the kids that are there, taking part in the Longhorn Project, how many of them would you say have any sort of background of agriculture before they come in? Yeah.
Before they come in, very few. Right now we have the three, I call them the McCulley girls. They live in Huffman and they actually have their own Longhorns. And then many people know Brooke. She was an ag teacher. Now she works at oil and gas, and her husband, Stephen. Those three girls show for us now. And so, they have their own Longhorns. They have their own little ranch in Huffman. And so they will come out periodically. They'll be here Sunday to help us with, working the cattle. And, they'll come out and help take care of them. And then, but they'll bring their two or three, they'll pick up our trailer with our load, and they will go to the shows. And so we started doing that last year because Henry and I are getting a little bit up there, and we needed a break from the showing just so we could continue to develop here locally our program and everything. And we went to the ITLA championship, and we actually trailered some up there, but we're partnering with Brooke and Stephen and the three girls. And one thing I wanted to say about the girls, these girls have been showing for us since they were 10 or 11 years old. I'd asked Brooke if one of them, if Whitney could show for us, and because we're going to a show in East Texas and we needed another person to go with us. And she said, yeah, but Waverly really wants to go. And I said, well, how old is she? She's like 10. I said, 10? Well, I thought Whitney was 15 because she's so tall. She's only 11. Man, these girls can do anything. I mean, they are just amazing. And then about 2 years ago, the youngest one started, Wimberley. And so they're just the greatest kids, and they can do anything. And they're just a wonderful, and you're talking about speech, all these different associations, have speech contests. And these girls, they are knocking it out of the park, with their art contests and their photo contests and their speeches. And it's just so wonderful to see. And a lot of our kids through the years have done that. And one thing that we really push with these kids, like I said, is to doing the 30 speeches, so they can learn how to speak, to the public about the Longhorns. But most of them win Hall of Fame, in the top 10 for Hall of Fame. And that's a big accomplishment on our side, because we want to see, for all this hard work that we're all doing, we want to see you getting that Hall of Fame, top 10 for your division. And so, it's been great.
So since so many of the breeders that support you also use hired hand to manage their herds and websites, this maybe feels like a natural place for us to talk about how technology plays into your program's visibility and the outreach that you have. So many of our listeners are hobby ranchers or breeders of registered Texas Longhorns, and they know the value of managing information like pedigrees and events and marketing. In what ways does the Longhorn Project use technology, software, or other marketing strategies to promote your program and the cattle?
Yeah. So, I mean, we use, horns, for the TLBA for my personal animals and to look up information on the other animals. One of my students that was for the independent study mentorship, he created for us personally a spreadsheet that I can log in the growth, the horn measurement and the weight, every month when we weigh them, so we can see their growth over time. And then I share that with the breeders so they can take that information and they can log it into their systems like Hired Hand or Horns to stay up with it. So we provide that every month to the breeders so they can use that. And then of course, through, we do a lot of posting on Facebook and Instagram about the animals and right now this one right here, this is actually a painting of Buckaroo Iron Hercules, our grand champion trophy steer. And we just keep on posting about his horn growth. He's now 107 inches tip to tip, And so we will, post any kind of significant growth, on our Facebook and the breeders can also use that, on their websites to promote their herds. And so that's basically how we use it.
So, looking ahead, and we'll wrap this up. I could talk to you much longer about some of the kids and the things that you do. It sounds like a fantastic program. But what goals or vision do you have for the Longhorn Project in the next 5 to 10 years, especially after the 30-year celebration of this year?
So, I mean, when the school district transitioned it to us in 2015, 16, it was with no financial backing. And so we basically started a new business. And so we have to fundraise all of our money. And then when we went through a government shutdown, what we just recently went through for almost 2 months, it was like 7 weeks, we couldn't raise money. So we lost several $1,000s in revenue. And then when we had the COVID pandemic in 2019, we didn't raise money for almost 9 months. So as we look ahead, what I'm trying to do right now is continue to build my board of people who want to help us make the connections to help fundraise, get grants, donations, and things like that to make this a state-of-the-art facility. It's a 30-year ranch. And so, of course, things get run down. So we spend quite a bit of money on capital expenditures. We need more money to make this place continue throughout the years. So in 30 years, we want to build the board. We want to continue to expand programming. Right now, we have a contract with CCISD, Clear Creek Independent School District, where all the fourth graders come. We have a lot of other schools that come, FFA groups, things like that, but we want to get another contract with the school so we have a more steady income. And then with the summer youth camp, we keep it at 2 weeks, but we keep on expanding what the kids do because some of these kids have been back 2 and 3 years. So we have to always change up our summer camp to make it interesting. And as far as the show team, we've kind of taken a little bit of a pause on how we're doing it, but hopefully, in years to come, we can get back to having our own show team on campus where they come every day and help take care of the Longhorns and go back to many more shows. And so, and also too, like we have trophy steers out there and they age out, they die of natural causes. And so we always, are maybe bringing on 1 or 2 more that can help, with our trophy steer pasture. And so the next 30 years, I look at building the board, building more programming, avenues for more students, avenues for more grants and things like that.
Well, and then finally, for people who are listening, if there is, an event that you suggest that people should mark on their calendars, what do you think, if you had to pick out of the whole year, what should be something that they attend to get kind of the full picture of the Longhorn Project?
April 18th, 2026 at our Silver Buckle Ball at the Nassau Bay Hilton. The day after, I'm going to have everybody who comes to the Silver Buckle Ball on the gate list so they can actually come to the Longhorn Project and see it firsthand, especially for the people out of town. But starting in January, the first 2 weeks of January, we have many field trips. I will be reaching out to potential sponsors and have them, come out and see the Longhorn Project so they can see. I've already had several people say they are committed to sponsoring it, but I want them to come see it firsthand before they make that decision on what level so they know exactly what they're getting into and they can help promote it to other businesses and their friends and things like that if they know more about it. So April 18th is a Silver Buckle Ball. It's going to be your Best Western bling bling. And we have 2 major bands from Houston that will be playing. Well, one's pretty much nationally known. Uwe Dorvik. He's a country and western player. He's played with all the major entertainers in the world. And then another band's called the Allen Oldies, and they're like the big Houston staple, big band music. And then we have some other musicians, Lance Covington and Jason Alcorn, who are doing our VIP party. But it's going to be a big blowout party. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It'll be a great place for breeders to meet each other and to help support us. But, we're going to have discounted rooms at the Nassau Bay Hilton. And again, we'll have an event on Sunday at the Longhorn Project for the breeders to come over and see. But anybody that wants to come before then, all they'd have to do is contact me and we can set something up, for them to come out and see us. But, the breeders that we've had in our program for many years have been just wonderful to us. And we always love re-engaging with them and keeping those contacts solid.
Well, Andrea, thank you so much for sharing the story of the Longhorn Project.
Thank you.
Your passion for youth and the unique ways you continue to combine the heritage of the cattle, STEM education, and ranching. Listeners, if you're looking to support our next generation of ag ambassadors, or you want your herd linked to impact beyond the past year, this is one program to watch. Visit thelonghornproject.com, or you can contact Andrea. Until next time, remember to appreciate the pastures you roam and the traditions that make them special.
Thank you, Jamie.